Good morning, friends and fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the Morning Market Prep video for October 3rd, 2024. Hope everyone had a great afternoon, a good evening, ready for another crazy day in the market. Unfortunately, we continue to be this very, very choppy market with lots of uncertainty and low breadth. Let's take a look at what happened overnight in Asian markets. First off, we've got quite a few of their markets closed. China, Shanghai continues to be closed for their week-long holiday. We've got South Korea that closed for their National Foundation Day, and Taiwan was closed for the second day because of a typhoon running through that area. So they were also closed last night. If we take a look at what was open, Hong Kong pulled back pretty sharply last night, falling 330 points, down 1.47%. The Nikkei was up sharply, up 743 points, or 1.97%. Australian markets also just slightly higher, up 0.9%. Seems like the China stimulus might be ebbing just a little bit in the drive higher here in those markets. Let's take a look at European markets. European markets are mostly lower here this morning, with the DAX down 100 points, or 0.52%. FTSE's down 25 points, up 25 points, or 0.30%, and the CAC is down 57 points, or 0.75%, as the Middle Eastern tensions continue to grow, with Israel making an attack on Beirut and actually moving their ground incursion into the country. So there are some tensions growing and continuing to grow, raising lots and lots of concerns. As we look at our U.S. futures are also lower this morning. Dow futures down 155 points, or 0.36%. The S&P 500 down 19.5 points, or 0.34%. And the NASDAQ futures down 90 points at 0.44%. Now, please keep in mind, I record these videos early, and there's going to be a lot of changes to these numbers as we progress toward the open today, with some data that could be market moving. If we take a look at other things here in the market, we continue to see oil showing some strength. If we look at XLE, been running to the upside yesterday. It gapped up and pulled back a little bit, eased off, but this morning we're pushing back up here. Oil right now, oil futures up $1.44 at 71.50 for a barrel, and Brent crude is up $1.39 at 75.29 a barrel, with natural gas coming in up just a little bit. UNG continues to come up out of this pattern. Nice little resting consolidation in here, up just about 2.5 cents today. Taking a look at bonds this morning, our bonds, well, they're moving up. We got the 2-year bond at 3.66%. The 10-year bond is at 3.81%, and the 30-year bond is up at 4.15%. And I'm guessing it's those geopolitical concerns, rising fuel prices, things like that, giving traders a little bit of concern and picking up some bonds for some safety. If we take a look at gold in here, well, gold still moving a little bit lower. GLD had kind of a rough day yesterday, but really it just is in a resting consolidation. And if I were to extend that trend out there, I still think it's looking pretty good. And with the geopolitical tensions out there, I wouldn't count it out just yet, but it does need a little bit of rest. Right now, gold futures are just down slightly, down $3.30 an ounce. Silver, copper, platinum, and palladium are also looking a little bit lower today. We've got a lot of currency fluctuations going on as well. The Japanese yen had a pretty hard fall, really pulling back, and the sterling dropping by a full 1%. And that is helping to aid the U.S. dollar in strengthening as well, along with those bonds increasing to the upside. So kind of keep an eye on that. And then if we look at cryptos this morning, interestingly enough, after a pretty rough day yesterday, Bitcoin is trying to make a little bit of a bounce back up. We're at least at this point, up 692 points a coin. It's been fluctuating around quite a bit, but we've had pretty substantial pullback in those cryptos. Ether, however, is still down $17.34 a coin, 0.73%, and there's a mix, Litecoin being up and XRP being down. So kind of a mix in those cryptos today, trying to figure out direction. So what does all that mean for today? Well, how about we settle in? Let's buckle up. Let's get ready for the Thursday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. Let's take a look at these index charts, see if we can figure out how we might want to approach the market for today. Remember, we want to take that look that's a critical look, shaking off our bias and really looking at the charts for what they are, not for what we want them to be. Now, looking at the diamonds, I still look at this chart. This is a very bullish chart. We're certainly in this resting consolidation. And I know no one wants to hear me say, hey, we're going to continue to chop. But I started this a week ago on Monday, that we should be careful and watch for the possibility of a choppy market condition. I had no idea it was going to be this right, but we have really set a range of chop in here that we're looking for some inspiration to get out of. And perhaps the data today, data tomorrow might provide some inspiration. But I'll tell you honestly, I think we're probably going to be waiting until the 11th at a minimum. The 11th is when we're going to start the big bank earnings reports. And we may actually have to wait till the week of the 14th to really get much going here for momentum in the market. But we'll see. Now, taking a look here in the diamonds, certainly locked in this consolidation, and we can see right where the sellers are. They're right across here. We continue to fluctuate here up and down during the day, just chopping in a range here in the market. And I know it's very frustrating when the market does this, but overall, we're still in this bullish pattern. We're still hanging in there. So if the bulls can find inspiration, well, look for that test up here, then see if we can pop. And then, of course, pushing on up to test the wick of that candle, we might have that kind of energy with some news out there or some economic reports to push us on up and make that record high in the diamonds. On the other hand, if the bears were to find any inspiration, of course, those geopolitical tensions certainly raising some concerns in there, raising those oil prices, causing some pressures, then if those bears were to find inspiration, a push back down through here might bring us into this level of price support in the chart. And if that's all the further we go, we're going to probably be fine. Probably wouldn't be too much worry coming into the market. But if that breaks, if we were to break on lower in here, I'm afraid that would raise a little bit of fear in the market. So kind of keep an eye on that. We could see that volatility of the market increase and the VIX starting to rise if we start dropping through some of those levels. Now, keeping in mind, we're still well above our 50-day moving average. So it's not like the world's coming to an end, but there could be some fear come up here in the market. If we take a look at the SPY, also been locked in this range. Now it's been just a little bit choppier of a range. You can see a little bit wider in those moves. There's that upside part of that chart, and we're going to need a little bit of effort here today to maybe even push up to test that level. We need some good data in some place. I would say right up through here, first test, if we push up, watch this area here to see if we can push through. There's a lot of data tied together right in that area, price action anyway, and if we can push through there, then maybe we might push up to test that resistance high and then see if we can punch on out for all-time highs in the SPY. However, if the bears were to find inspiration here today, well, we can certainly see there's a support level right in here, and it's a pretty darn good support level with all of this price action in the chart and this upside trend coming into play here. So we'll want to watch that pretty carefully, but if the bears were to get inspired and break down below this area, you can see there's a couple lines in here. One of that is the bottom side of this consolidation that I've marked. So if we would pull back into here and hold it at that area, I think we're probably going to be fine. But if we start breaking below that area of the chart, pushing on through the trend, that's where we're likely going to start raising some fear. Beyond that, a little bit of worry might be coming into the market. And if we take a look at our moving averages, we're still way above our 50-day. So not a particular panic by any means, but we could see some fear coming up with all of these tensions out there and all these uncertainties kind of plaguing the market. If we take a look at our QQQ, very similar situation here, except we still haven't made that new record high here in the Qs, and we're fading back in the market. We had a pretty good day yesterday, but didn't come anywhere close to recovering that black candle of Wednesday. So of Tuesday. So we'll have to watch that closely. If the bulls find inspiration, I'm going to look for this little area right in here to see if we can push on up through there, and then of course maybe breaking that Tuesday candle to see if we can break through, and then maybe stretching on up to test this resistance. Remember, breaking through this resistance, we're going to be looking at these levels up here and possibly that breakout to all-time highs in the Qs. Now, if the bears were to be inspired today and continue any kind of push to the downside, this area right in here is going to be a pretty critical area of price support. There's a lot of price data here, and of course we have this upside trend that we're looking at as well. If we were to push down into here, I really don't see that as being a really big deal, but breaking below that level could really raise some concerns in the market. So watch that carefully. This is a pretty critical area of price support here in the NASDAQ, so watch that closely. And if we take a look at our IWM gives me the biggest concern here in the market, and that is just simply because we have created the pattern where we created a lower high, lower low. We have broken some support here in the chart, although we did try to fight that back yesterday. Here you can see we're following on through to the downside, maybe testing some levels down in here looks possible. And if we start moving back toward this trend, we're probably okay. Excuse me for the cough. Probably okay, but if we were to push any lower, I think there might be a little concern come in the market. Now, if the bulls were to find inspiration, first thing we need to do is get back above this level right here. Then we could start pushing back up to see if we can test some of these areas here in the chart, trying to progress on through right back up here to this pretty substantial resistance that we've seen, and struggling to get back up through there. So watch that closely. If we take a look at our VIX, well, our VIX popped up a little bit yesterday, trying to get moving in the chart, but well, we just started to pull back as those buyers came in yesterday, just resting in here more than anything else. We will want to notice that we are resting in here above some support in the chart, And as I've continued to say, the thing we have to worry about the most is not the first move. That first impulse wave in a market is not much to really get too concerned about or worry about. It's if we happen to hold and make a higher low in here and start pushing back up. That's where real selling typically comes in on the VIX. So if those bears were to find inspiration, what we don't want to see is this starting to spike to the upside. Of course, if the bulls can find inspiration, I would suggest a pushback into here, and I think that's still very possible, a pushback to test this area as support, and then see if we can break on down through that trend and come back into this level of the VIX. Now, let's take a look at our T20s, our T2122. We needed this relief and this pullback in the market, and I know no one wants to see the market ever sell, but it is necessary. We need to relieve that upside pressure. So we did get that nice little sell-off here. Tried to catch a little bit of a hookup yesterday in that move. We're still holding above our 50% area here in T2122. So if those bulls find inspiration here today, then I would look for that opportunity to push up here. We've opened up a space for them to get a rally going if we get some good data. Of course, if the data comes in on the bearish side and the bears engage, we got just a little bit more opportunity for a downside move to push us on lower. So yeah, be kind of careful here. The thing that is so hard in this market is we're not getting much for momentum. If we take a look at T2101, our breadth of the market, boy, we continue to fall. And as I suggested, this is pretty normal for this time of year because we're in that corporate buyback area of the season, where corporations cannot buy back their stock. They can't influence their stock prices, and so we get this really sharp breadth decline in the market. And just keeping in mind, we can still go quite a bit lower here on that breadth, and with us having to wait until maybe all the way to the 11th before we even begin bank earnings, certainly does seem likely that we could continue to fade here on market breadth. Of course, being in this long consolidation that we've been in, any kind of news could pop us out and we could get a surge of energy in the market at any time. So we really have to stay on our toes. And I think the possibility that we go up or go down right now is about 50-50. So watch that closely. And if we take a look at our T2108, there's nothing wrong here. Bulls are still in control. The Diamond SPY and QQQ are still in bullish patterns. We're just chopping around in here on low energy in the market. So no particular worries here in percentage of stocks above the 40-day moving average or the 200-day moving average. Just kind of chopping around. We're looking for some kind of inspiration. We're looking for some kind of relief for either upside or downside pushes. And so far, we just can't get that momentum. If we were to take a look at our economic calendar today, well, our economic calendar is just the kind of thing that may provide some of those inspirations to move. We've got a Challenger job cut report this morning, so keep an eye on that. Shortly after, we're going to be getting that jobless claims. They're looking for 225,000. Little increase on those jobless claims, so we'll want to be watching that closely here. I'm not exactly sure how the market will react. We saw ADP numbers yesterday showing an increase in private payrolls. And when we continue to see that, that continues to happen, well, I'm thinking about the FOMC. Now, well, wait a minute. We're still struggling. We haven't quite got prices back to where we need them to be. And if the jobs aren't coming off, Well, what's the rush to cut rates? So, if we continue to see these move up, it is possible it could disappoint the market a little bit in that possibility that the Fed will not be aggressive enough in rate cuts. And we've kind of priced in them being aggressive in rate cuts. If we take a look at beyond that, we've got a PMI composite number. We've got factory orders coming in. They're looking at those declining to a 0.2 from a 0.6. But, we don't care about manufacturing anymore. No matter how bad the manufacturing looks or is, we don't recognize, we don't care. So no particular worries on that. ISM services number here, you can see 51.5 is what they're looking on that. Just kind of looks to me like a guess when they do that kind of thing. We don't know what it's going to be. Let's just say flat. So I'll watch that one closely today. And then we've got a natural gas report. Of course, we've got some Fed speak in here that's still going on, a few bond auctions to be paid attention to in the Fed balance sheet. But what we will probably be doing shortly after we get through those jobless claims is we're going to be thinking about what is this going to be on Friday. Employment situation number can always be this kind of hesitation point in the market as we wait for that. So keep in mind, tomorrow morning we're going to be getting that employment situation number as you plan forward. Let's take a look at our earnings calendar here for today. And our earnings calendar, well, it's just pretty darn light. Not much going on this time of season, but we do have ANGO reporting this morning. A little pop and drop going on there so far in that one, so keep an eye on that. We've got Constellation Brands that reporting today. It looks like, I'm not sure that report's happened just yet. You can see just trying to, looks like it's just trying to wait for that report, so watch that close. And then this afternoon, it's hard to really even claim this as even notable, but we've got Telray that will be reporting here this afternoon, $1.69 stock. Well, but I was looking for something, so there you go. You've got a notable for this afternoon. So let's take a look at some stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you could please click that subscribe button on YouTube and also click that bell icon when it pops up. That way you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful or helpful, if you could do me that favor and click that thumbs up button, leave a brief comment. That helps the channel to continue to grow. Thank you so much for everyone who does do that. You know, I know it gets monotonous, but it certainly is helpful in the effort to put these videos out every day. And I know a lot of folks appreciate it. It is very helpful when you do that. It really shows the YouTube algorithm that, hey, people do enjoy this content. Show it to more folks and helps the channel to grow. So thank you everyone for your kind support of the effort. I do very much appreciate it. Let's take a look at some of these stocks that could be setting up. And remember, they're not recommendations to buy or sell any security. You need to do your own due diligence. Be very, very careful in this market. And just realize that a news event, a geopolitical news event, could change sentiment in the market in about half a heartbeat. So be prepared for just about anything as we progress forward. And I would really suggest be careful with over trading as we're waiting for those next round of earnings reports, and the choppy market conditions could easily continue, particularly as we see breadth continuing to decline. So let's take a look at a few of these. There are some really good charts showing up in the steel sector of the market. Take a look at Cleveland Cliffs. Now, Cleveland has been underloved for a long time. No one wanted to be involved there, moving in that downtrend. And now you can see we've got that up move coming in, a nice little resting consolidation in here. In a rate cutting environment, I would expect commodities like steel to move up, and Cleveland beautiful chart pattern here that could set up. And if we take a look at bigger moving averages like the 50-day moving average in here, we're coming up in a pattern that we call the rounded bottom breakout. Very nice pattern overall and a great trading pattern. If you don't know any of these patterns that we trade, then I would highly recommend you take a look at the Right Way options for a trial membership, and come on in and ask those questions of me, and I can show you how those patterns work and why you want to know them, because they're so productive in making money in the market. Let's take a look at a few others here. MT made quite a move up, but it's really reacting negatively to this big resistance. It's probably just gone too far, too fast. But if you take a look at Steel Dynamics, nice little move up, still reacting negatively to this resistance, but I would watch for that next opportunity maybe coming along here in Steel Dynamics. You'll notice that even if I were to take this line here and adjust this all the way up, we're breaking or have broken that big downtrend, and if we can hold in this area, I would be looking for that chance of a pushback higher here. So keep an eye on some of those steel stocks, and that's just a few. Take a look at Nucor. Nucor is another very beautiful pattern, also a rounded bottom breakout pattern, setting up any weakening in the dollar. I would look for these to move on higher, so watch that closely. Now, speaking of the dollar, our dollar has been moving up. We've been seeing our bond yields going back up here as the geopolitical tensions rise, and you can see we're up here testing a resistance area in the chart. We haven't seen this kind of move in the dollar for a while, and one of the reasons we're getting such an elevation too is we're seeing a major weakening in the Japanese yen again, and then that big fall in the sterling by full 1%, adding to some upside pressure in here as well. So keep an eye on those bond yields. That's certainly having some impacts here in the market. And if we see these other currencies weaken, that strengthens the US dollar. So watch that closely. Let's take a look at some other areas here of the market. First, I'm pretty darn interested here in gold, continuing to hold gold. I do think it needs a consolidation or a pullback, and we're getting that right now. But I think if the geopolitical tensions continue to escalate, we're likely to see gold move on higher. So keep an eye on GLD. Also keep an eye on silver, although it is pulling back and we're struggling with this resistance up here. You want to notice the fact that if it pops out of there, boy, we've got some upside opportunity maybe coming in silver if that can hold. So watch that closely. Let's take a look at some of the other dollar related things like soybeans, showing this really nice beautiful pattern in here. Soybeans holding, it's in the rounded bottom breakout pattern. You could look at corn in here. It is really stretching the last couple of days, 4 days straight to the upside in that beautiful pattern here, looking good. Wheat also making a nice move, stretching right on up to that 200-day moving average, completing the rounded bottom breakout, showing a lot of strength in some of those grain commodities here lately. So watch that closely. Let's take a look at our financials. We look at the banks, still a little bit of a question mark here on those banks. What I see in these charts is a bit of a wedging, or some might call it a pennant pattern, symmetrical triangle in here. When I look at patterns like this, I usually think there's about a 50% chance we either go up or we go down. I'm not sure which is going to be the case here. So I would be really, really careful. I would not rule out that possibility of a dip down to retest that 50-day moving average if those bears find some inspiration here in the market with these geopolitical tensions. So watch that closely here on our financials. Pretty rough overall in the market. Take a look at Roku. Roku continues to rest in this nice little resting pattern in here. Nothing wrong with that chart after breaking through this resistance. A lot of times I think the longer the rest in here, the better. All we need is that inspiration here in the market, a little bit of shot of love in here, and we can certainly see this start to push on higher. So keep an eye on that. This NTNX has been kind of interesting. It's been popping around in here quite a bit for me in alerts, but just recently, yesterday, we really started to fall and made a new low. So now I'm a little bit worried about this. Even though we popped back up, we may be in a situation where we could run into this resistance and fail. So watch that closely here. Remember, we've got to be willing to look at both sides of the market and see what's actually happening out there. If we're just all one-sided, we miss the makeup of the market and we become biased, so biased to one side. We put on those rose-colored glasses and we can't see the forest for the trees. And we end up putting ourselves at risk if we're not paying attention to all different sides of the market. So look for both of those in a market like this, because we do have that potential. We could zoom up or zoom down pretty easily in these markets. Take a look at Canva here. Looking pretty good, still holding in that bullish pattern. We're needing a little bit of inspiration to push that up. I'd be watching carefully there. When I look at Visa, this rally up in Visa coming back into this congestion zone, they have got some major problems ahead of them here legally. I would watch that carefully as we push back up here. I'd watch for that potential where this could fail up here in this area. Watch for that possible short and then a break of the 50-day moving average in that chart. Visa running into quite a few challenges overall. So there's a few stocks for you to look at. Of course, I wish I could go over a whole lot more, but I'm running out of time. I'm out of time. The video's running long. So I will wish you all a fantastic day. Wish you great success in your trading. And I'll see you right back here bright and early Friday morning. Take care, everyone.